HOA bulldozed my lake fence didn't realize I had C4 charges rigged under the dock. How would you react if an overly aggressive HOA citing fabricated safety concerns bulldozed your private property line, unaware you had a far more explosive defense in place? The tranquil shimmer of Lake Havenwood, reflecting the morning sun, was usually a sight that brought me immense peace. My property, the lakeside retreat, had been in my family for generations, a secluded haven on the waterfront where I, Marcus Thorne, a former military demolitions expert turned eccentric inventor, designed and tested my unique, environmentally friendly aquatic drones. My property lines, particularly along the lake, were clearly marked by a robust, low-profile fence designed to protect my delicate prototypes from curious eyes and local wildlife. It was a perfectly legal, well-maintained barrier, inspected and approved by the county. Then came Karen, not with a friendly wave, but with the terrifying roar of heavy machinery. I was conducting a diagnostic test on a new deep-sea survey drone when a monstrous bulldozer, accompanied by a smaller demolition crew, rumbled onto my land. At the helm of this assault, clipboard in hand, her face a mask of self-righteous fury, was Brenda Albright, the notoriously domineering president of the Lakeview Point HOA, a new, sprawling luxury development that had recently acquired the land adjacent to mine. "Mr. Thorne," Brenda shrieked, her voice amplified by a megaphone, cutting through the morning calm. "This fence is a flagrant violation of Lakeview Point's common access and aesthetic harmony covenants. It obstructs our residents' unfettered lake access and drastically lowers our property values. We have received numerous complaints about this eyesore and its obstruction of public waterways. This is an illegal structure, and we are here to implement a community-mandated removal. You are impeding progress, and I demand you cease your interference at once, or face extreme penalties and public shaming." The main conflict, audacious and utterly infuriating, was laid bare. Brenda, armed with baseless accusations of public obstruction and an absurd concern for aesthetic harmony, was illegally trespassing and demolishing my private property, all while fabricating ridiculous claims of public access. Her demands were not only ludicrous but rooted in a profound sense of entitlement and a pathological need for control, treating my property and my livelihood as a personal affront to her concept of luxury living. Her attitude was one of blatant contempt, believing her personal preferences granted her the right to intrude, destroy, and impose rules on sovereign land, completely ignoring my established rights. I stared at her, then at the monstrous bulldozer that was already tearing into my fence. "Ms. Albright," I shouted, my voice barely audible over the machinery, "you are trespassing. This is private property. This fence is legal and has all county permits. Your HOA has no jurisdiction over my land or the lake access. You are committing criminal destruction of property. Get that bulldozer off my land immediately, or I will consider this an act of war." I even pulled out my laminated property deeds and the county permit for the fence. Brenda, however, merely scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. "Nonsense. Your permits are irrelevant when they violate our established community standards for uninterrupted lake views. An act of war? Don't be so dramatic, Mr. Thorne. This is for the greater good of our community. When the authorities arrive, they'll see your obstruction and side with us. They always do." Her tone was chillingly arrogant, her eyes holding a glint of perverse pleasure, as if she reveled in her perceived power to command authorities. Within minutes, 2 county sheriff's deputies, apparently alerted by Brenda, arrived, looking bewildered by the scene. Brenda immediately launched into a dramatic, fabricated account, claiming I was illegally blocking public lake access and threatening her crew. The deputies, trying to make sense of the situation, began to question me. Then, Brenda's audacity escalated into a direct, shocking act of public endangerment and environmental damage. While the deputies were distracted, Brenda, with a triumphant smirk, pointed towards my private dock. "And destroy that eyesore too," she shrieked. The bulldozer, under her direct command, rumbled towards my dock. With a sickening groan of splintering wood and groaning metal, it rammed into the support pilings of my research dock, a crucial platform for launching and recovering my experimental aquatic drones. Then, with a sneer, Brenda ordered a smaller crew to dump several barrels of what appeared to be industrial waste into the lake, just off my property line. It was a calculated, malicious act designed to cripple my research, destroy my property, and intentionally pollute the very lake she claimed to protect. Right after Brenda's act of destruction and brazen environmental contamination, a crucial twist unfolded from an unexpected source. As the industrial waste barrels began to sink, a small, sleek object, one of my experimental deep-water environmental monitoring drones, suddenly surfaced near the barrels. I had been secretly testing its new, hypersensitive chemical detection array. A warning light flashed on my wrist-mounted controller. "Hold on a second, officers," I yelled, my eyes glued to the drone's real-time data stream. The drone's readouts confirmed it. The barrels contained a highly corrosive, illegal chemical waste. But more importantly, the drone's sonar, still active, had just sent back an unexpected, crucial image from under my dock. It showed not just the shattered pilings, but the distinct, familiar outlines of the C4 charges I had discreetly rigged under the dock weeks ago, as a failsafe for an experimental, highly volatile prototype that I had decided to store there, in case of a catastrophic system malfunction. The charges weren't armed, but their presence, combined with the structural damage to the dock, would trigger a massive, uncontrolled explosion if the dock collapsed. It was an accidental, but terrifyingly real, twist. The larger consequence of Brenda's actions became terrifyingly clear. The destruction of my dock wasn't just personal property damage. It directly jeopardized a joint interagency coastal erosion and invasive species study that my drones were collecting data for, a project vital for the entire Lake Havenwood ecosystem and its surrounding communities. Her deliberate act of vandalism, combined with the illegal chemical dumping, wasn't just a petty act of malice. It directly threatened public safety, vital environmental research, and risked widespread ecological damage. Her petty vendetta had escalated into a direct assault on both human safety and the environment, elevating her personal malice to a matter of profound civic and ecological significance. Armed with my drone's irrefutable chemical readings, sonar images, and the furious lead scientist from the EPA's regional office, I was done being subtle. As the deputies finally approached, looking thoroughly confused by Brenda's continued theatrics, she was still yelling about my dangerous equipment. "Officers, he's resisting. This scientist is clearly a menace." "Actually, Ms. Albright," I retorted, my voice cutting through her bluster, amplified by the news cameras that had just pulled up, having been tipped off by the EPA. "Your community safety is about to become an arrest for felony vandalism, illegal dumping of hazardous waste, reckless endangerment, and attempted obstruction of justice." I then projected my drone's real-time chemical detection readings and sonar images of the C4 charges onto a large, portable screen for the deputies and the news crew. The chemical readings showed off-the-charts toxicity levels, and the sonar image clearly depicted the C4. "And you see those shapes under the dock, officers?" I said, pointing to the screen. "Those are C4 demolition charges. Unarmed, for now, but your bulldozer just compromised the structural integrity of that dock. If it collapses into the water, those charges become unstable. We're talking about a chemical spill and a massive explosion that could flatten a good portion of the shoreline, including your precious Lakeview Point, Ms. Albright." The deputies looked aghast, and the assembled news crew gasped, their faces paling. Brenda's face went from smug confidence to utter, absolute terror, her jaw hanging slack as the gravity of the situation and the unexpected explosive twist dawned on her. No, that's impossible. That's a trick. He's lying," she shrieked, desperately trying to manipulate the situation, her voice shrill and breaking. She started pointing fingers, trying to blame me, the drone, anyone but herself, her eyes wide with unadulterated fear. Just as her pathetic denials reached their peak, the silence was shattered by the distinct wail of additional sirens. More county sheriff's vehicles, but also a sleek black SUV marked Department of Homeland Security, Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, pulled up. Out of the lead vehicle stepped a grim-faced federal agent, followed by the local fire chief, a bomb squad technician, and the furious lead scientist from the EPA. The FEMA representative spoke first, his voice cold and cutting. "Ms. Albright, Your actions have not only caused severe environmental damage but created an immediate, catastrophic threat to public safety. This is a federal disaster-level incident, and you are directly responsible. The EPA representative stepped forward. And Ms. Albright, we've also been investigating reports of widespread illegal dumping and environmental violations within the Lakeview Point HOA, specifically regarding the unauthorized disposal of construction waste and the use of restricted chemicals in your landscaping projects. Your documented acts of vandalism, illegal hazardous waste dumping, and reckless endangerment align perfectly with these ongoing investigations. Furthermore, we have evidence of significant sums of HOA funds being diverted to offshore accounts linked to your shell corporations, ostensibly for environmental beautification projects that never materialized, and a history of targeting environmentally sensitive areas for illicit disposal. A nervous murmur rippled through the gathered Lakeview Point residents, who had followed the commotion, as one stammered to the EPA agent. She told us the environmental fees were for our new lake purification system. We had no idea the waste was being dumped. It was a chilling revelation. Brenda wasn't just a busybody. She was a criminal mastermind, systematically defrauding her own members, attempting to seize valuable lakefront property, and committing serious environmental crimes for massive personal profit, with the aesthetic harmony claims merely a cover for her grand scheme. A past incident, whispered among her former colleagues, revealed that Brenda had been previously involved in a major environmental fraud case in another state. The consequences for Brenda Albright were immediate and utterly devastating. She was arrested by federal and local authorities on multiple charges, including federal offenses for illegal hazardous waste dumping, reckless endangerment, felony vandalism, and later, as the full extent of the fraud was uncovered, for massive embezzlement, wire fraud, and racketeering. The Lakeview Point HOA was placed under immediate federal oversight, its assets frozen, and a full forensic audit exposed tens of millions in stolen funds, a systematic scheme orchestrated by Brenda and her network. Her carefully cultivated image as the benevolent community leader shattered into irreparable pieces. The HOA residents she had once intimidated and defrauded now turned on her, furious at being manipulated and exploited, their HOA funds stolen, and their properties facing environmental liabilities due to her criminal actions. Her social circles, built on an illusion of wealth and influence, abandoned her completely, unwilling to be associated with such public disgrace. Her vast real estate holdings, her fortune, her status, her perceived power all confiscated as part of the ongoing investigation and subsequent lawsuits. She lost everything: her freedom, her fortune, and her reputation. The ultimate irony was that her audacious attempt to bulldoze my property and clean up her ugly views led to the complete unraveling of her vast, illegal enterprise, and nearly caused a literal explosion, culminating in a lengthy federal prison sentence. As for the lakeside retreat, it thrived. My dock was rebuilt, the C4 charges safely removed by the bomb squad, who, though initially alarmed, found my explanation of the prototype credible, and the lake was cleaned thanks to the swift EPA action. My environmental drones, now equipped with new, even more advanced sensors, became critical tools for the ongoing lake restoration efforts. The satisfaction was immense, watching her literal and figurative empire crumble before her eyes, a quiet triumph of justice and ingenuity over arrogant greed and rampant criminality, narrowly averting a true disaster. What's your take on this? When someone so brazenly abuses power, engages in property destruction, and commits serious environmental crimes, even risking a catastrophic explosion, all while defrauding an entire community, does their complete and utter downfall, even to federal prison, truly serve justice? Or is there a point where the consequences become too extreme?